I didn't even look at the rundown. Are we like, no, it's fine. I'm ready to rock.
This is the Wally and Methot Show. Now, here are your hosts, Brent Wallace and Mark Methot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wally and Methot Show. I'm Brent Wallace. He's Mark Methot. And if you're just joining us for the first time, we're on YouTube. We're on all the podcast networks, including, I just found out, Amazon Music. So you can give that a listen if you need to as well. Please like and subscribe our channel. We appreciate it. As always, Meth, I need to start with a big question for you. I know you said at the beginning at the end of last year, you got the tree down right away and got it out the door, the Christmas tree. I just took mine down like 2 days ago, and the mess that it made to get it outside, I never want to see a tree again.
No,
like if I could take it with all the ornaments, lights, everything, I'd be out the door with it.
I know. It's crazy because we had a couple trees. They weren't huge, but my wife went on a tear this year. I don't know. She short-circuited a little bit, I'm sure, and decided to get more than we needed. So of course, it's like January 2nd or whatever, I think it was. And Ellie's like, okay, it's time. Let's go. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, we're taking everything down right now. So it took about 4.5 hours. But to your point, the trees with all the ornaments, like you wish you could just chuck it outside and it's done with. But you have to take it. You got to take everything down, put everything away carefully. And it's like, but I will say this, and you're kind of like I am, you're a little OCD. It was freeing. Once all the Christmas stuff was put away, all of a sudden we had more room everywhere in the home. It was just less cluttery. It made me feel good. So, I mean, and you know what? It's for the kids, Wally. So that's what you're doing it for, right?
I completely agree. There is one small thing I left out. My wife still kept up the artificial tree. It's still up in the house.
Yeah, but the artificial trees, listen, I know it's bad for the environment, and it's people encouraged now to go to the tree farms and buy trees, which, by the way, I used to do religiously every year. But because of the pine needles and then, the threat of maybe not watering it, it dries out. And then, it turns into a mess. It can create a fire, just like that flammable thing that you had to your right for a little while. It's just not worth it anymore. So we've got our fake plastic trees. They're brutal for the environment, but they're going to be used every year. And then they're going to end up in a landfill when I'm dead.
You know what you can do? I saw this on the news, so it must be true. You can rent your tree.
I saw this on the news.
Yes.
So it must be true.
so that you can rent it and then take it back at the end somehow, and they replant it. I don't understand how this completely works. It makes no sense to me. But you can rent a real tree. And it's like your tree. It sounds like a poor marketing idea to me.
You're cutting. So are they bringing in the roots and everything? Like you're just planting this huge planter in your house with a tree in it?
It's like Disney World ride. Like I don't understand exactly. But you can rent it. Anyway, that makes no sense.
Right. That's cool. It's cool.
It's a big show today, by the way. As always, the Wally Methot Show brought to you by sportsinteraction.com. Canada's online casino and sportsbook. Go to sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot. Get the most competitive odds. One of the things I like to look at, it makes me, I don't know, it's entertaining, if you will. You can bet on the games. You can do all that stuff. But you can bet on whether or not guys will score goals or not. Like, would you have ever... I know you can't bet on yourself, Math, when you're playing, but would you have ever considered laughing if there was like odds on whether or not you were going to score that night? Would you be like, tell your brothers, like, man, I bet on you to score.
Oh, and it would be a long shot. That was never available. And I mean, you'd be seeing a lot of Pete Roses around the NHL if that was the case, but no, you know what? It's cool. It's a cool feature. And that's a huge part of the success that the NFL gets, right? I mean, I think a lot of people obviously are fans, but to get people in there, all the fantasy stuff and the online betting now that's available, I think you'll see a bit of a shift now, and it improves viewership with the hockey.
Yeah, it is fun to watch. Like it is, like I'm now cheering for guys like, don't shoot the puck because I don't want you to score.
Exactly.
Don't touch the puck. So anyway, it's always good. So go to sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot. You can start making those kinds of bets. Canada's online casino and sportsbook. Math, big show coming up. We got Dave Cameron, of course, he's the World Junior head coach. We're going to talk to him about all the stuff that happened out in Edmonton and with the World Juniors being canceled or at least postponed. Jamie McLennan, Noodles, is back on the show. We call this episode 2.5 with Noodles because he's kind of here. We're going to give him a gift. We like to provide gifts every once in a while, so we're going to surprise him with a little gift and see how that goes. Lots to talk about. But first, as always, let's get to the headlines. brought to you by Bonnechere Excavating Inc. Go to BonnechereExcavating.com. They are helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. BonnechereExcavating.com. If you're looking in the Ottawa Valley in the spring to get your pavement, your driveway redone, give them a shout now. Start booking that up. It is starting. The bookings are starting to come in. All right. Meth, I don't know how you would do this as a player, and I know we're in the middle of COVID, so things are different. But between their Philadelphia game on December the 18th and their next game, which is this Saturday in Vancouver, they'll have played once in 20 days. Once, Meth. And I don't even know how, I don't know how you prepare for that, because obviously games are canceled as they get going here. And the second of all, it should be no surprise that when they came back, they got pumped 6-0. I know the Leafs were off for a longer layover, but let's look at the rosters, and there's no Josh Norris. You've put Matt Murray in net. You've taken out Thomas Chabot, I think, was out of that game as well. Like, they were missing, and maybe he was in the game.
Yeah.
They were missing a ton of guys. Like the Leafs.
Well, it's not.
And the Sens are not in the same category right now. So this game you knew was not going to go well.
No. And well, yes and no, because they do have a fairly good track record against Toronto. I mean, as far as keeping the games relatively competitive, it's just one of those things where you get that with rivalries, right? But you mentioned a bunch of the injuries and players missing. Another one, it was Hetherington. That's another guy that flies under the radar and everyone just kind of glosses over him and moves on to the next guy. And I'm not going to go on a rant here. I'm just saying those are guys that are very important to have in your lineup, and they're deterrents on the ice. They're physical guys. So they were missing a bunch. They were short-staffed. We'll just put it that way. And that's understandable, but they also had 5 days of practice leading up to this game. Like, it's not like they were just thrown back into the fire, right, Wally?
I understand.
Were they not on the ice?
No, I think it's 4, but maybe it's 5. I can't remember. I know Matt Murray had 4 practices and Philip Gustafson had 2, which is the only reason I know that. But that's why Murray basically got the start, is because he had 2 more skates than Gustafson. I'm not sure that that's necessarily the right way to do that, but yeah.
Well, Noodles and I were going back and forth, oddly enough, during that game. He was texting me and we were talking about, the guys were playing so poorly, right? And we were a little surprised with the way they came out. And that was sort of the consensus between us when we were talking, was that, this team had 5 full days of practice and they still look pretty flat. So that's always going to be a bit of an alarming thing, but you're right. To their credit, and everything, they're playing against Toronto, a very good team, and they're hurting between COVID and all the injuries. That affects everything, of course. They don't have a ton of depth to begin with, so they can't necessarily afford to be short man like that. But I didn't like the game though, Wally. Like, I didn't like their defensive structure. They were a bit of a mess in the D zone. They didn't seem to be in sync at all. They weren't getting clean exits. And I know we're going to touch on Matt Murray later, but I didn't think he was terrible. I didn't think he was great. It was just another Matt Murray type game where he couldn't steal a win for the guys. And of course it goes deeper than that, but here's another opportunity now coming up. They could get back on the ice, hopefully get a rebound game in here. Cause I mean, you can't continue playing the way they did against Toronto. That's going to have to change. I'm sure they're addressing it.
Back to the Toronto game before we touch on Murray, and of course they're playing Vancouver, which is red hot late as well. There you talked about the Hetherington, and we dismissed this, and you've brought it up before, and we continue to kind of just skirt around it. You had Victor Mete, Brandstrom, and Lassie Thompson in your lineup on the back end. You can't move anybody, Matt. There's no physical game. So when Austin Matthews is coming down the ice, nobody can move him out of the way. That's why they're getting manhandled. Their blue line is such a vast void in that lineup right now, and it gets overlooked because of all the COVID and injuries up front.
Right, and the coaching staff knows that. Pierre Dorion knows that. These aren't secrets. And if you're a skilled guy, you mentioned Matthews. That's a great little example that you brought up, where you're coming down the ice and forwards do this, by the way. Like, I know it because I played long enough and they would joke about it. I remember guys like Derek and Brassard and some of the other guys that we would talk about other teams' lineups, and you look at their depth chart, you look at their decor. If there wasn't a whole lot of physical presence back there, forwards are licking their chops. I'm telling you right now, they want this. It's an easy game for them, right?
Yes.
You're not worried about getting taken out in the corner. It's not going to be that hard for you at net front if you choose to go and plant your butt right there in front of the goalie. Those are all little things. And I'm not suggesting, we've said this before, and I feel like I always have to kind of preface it with the fact that I'm not condoning having a bunch of meatheads on the back end, but to have some mobile size that does play with a little bit of physicality is absolutely crucial. And I've said this a million times as well, Wally. Just look at the playoffs. over the past, X amount of years. And you look at the conference finals, even the Stanley Cup finals, of course, you're always going to have at least two guys back there that have some size that can hit guys and move the puck relatively well. And they're lacking that now. They will address it. There's no question. But that's a huge hole right now in that lineup.
You can't play this game, especially on the blue line. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, without being a physical type blue line. You just can't do it. Like, it's a physical sport. Yeah. They track hits for a reason.
It's not just, but it's not just laying guys out. It's, when you have those muscle. Bigger, taller guys out there, you've got range, you've got longer sticks. It's harder for forwards to get pucks around nets because you've got that reach, you're rangy, you're breaking up plays, and it's not always going to be pretty, right? You're not going to get a pretty little exit from Dylan Hetherington every time he has the puck, but he can break up plays, almost kind of like he's also a cooler for his D partner, right? If you pair him with somebody that does move the puck relatively well, that's his role. And he's mostly been an AHL journeyman, but I'm a huge fan of his. I like the way he's brought a little bit of stability back there on that third pairing. So they need more of that. I'm sure that's something that they're going to attempt to address in the summer, depending on who's available. But absolutely, it's an issue right now.
Yeah, it should have been addressed last year, and they just didn't do it. I mean, I guess you're bringing in
it's hard to
Hetherington, I guess, but I just think you can't have success unless you build from the back end. It's been proven.
Well, and you got to spend it. You're not going to find some discount free agent out there who's in his 30s that can actually defend really well, skate very well, and happens to be fairly large, right? Like, you have to pay for these players. I know I'm stating the obvious, but I feel like it doesn't get stated enough anymore. We just keep looking at the current lineup and the current six, and we're trying to figure out a combination that works with them, when it's like, I think it's a little deeper than that. It's a personnel issue at this point.
Yeah, like every time, and I guess we'll move on, but every time we go, JBD is going to move and he's going to be great in that lineup, and Lassie Thompson, the point, they're not ready to play in that lineup because they don't have the sufficient guys surrounding them. There's no cast support.
And I'm telling you right now, that's not going to work. Like JBD, Lassie, all those guys, I'm a huge fan of all of them, but there's no threats there. Those aren't physical players. No. Like, Thompson's not that big of a guy. I'm sorry. He's not. Like, you need players that can do that kind of work out there. They're going to be good PK guys with long sticks, but that's going to come. And that's not me trying to shit all over the team right now. I'm just saying on the back end,
that's their
absolutely
game.
Crucial.
Yeah.
and that's DJ's game. You're right.
Yeah. All right. By the way, just a quick thought. They're going into Vancouver. So out of the frying pan into the fire, they're facing a Vancouver team, A, that's been playing some games, but B, under Bruce Boudreau, like they're unstoppable. And Thatcher Demko now seems unbeatable. This is going into the West Coast is another thing. They're about to begin a 4-game road trip here, starting in Vancouver. This is a tough game for them. No question.
Yeah. Yep. And this is, you mentioned Boudreau, like, what a story, right? You go in there and you're basically undefeated. But that's usually what happens when there's a coaching change, and when it's warranted that there needs to be a coaching change and they address it. Usually a team responds, right? You've got fresh blood back there. So all of a sudden everyone's got something to prove again. And that goes from Demko all the way up the lineup. And that's what's happening. So this is a game where I'm actually curious to see how Ottawa responds in this, because you've got a team that, to me, isn't that deep in Vancouver yet. They're playing out of their minds at the moment. I still think they're due for a loss. Ottawa's been known to play that upset team. This could be a trap game for Vancouver, Wally. You never know.
I agree.
We'll see how it plays out for them. But they don't have the first change. They're a little beat up right now. Shabbat's in protocol. I don't know. Like, that's a guy that he won't be there, right? So that's a player that eats up to 30 minutes tonight. It's going to either expose some players, or some players are going to have to step up and gain a little bit of opportunity and look at it in a positive light.
The one thing I do appreciate about Boudreau, and I think I don't know if he's an X's and O's guy per se, but he has this way that he just deals with players, right? And they all seem to just, he came in, he's doing cameos, he's doing all kinds of stuff. He's lighthearted, and you can see you feel like the air kind of come back into the room of like, we can breathe again. It's a little lighthearted. So let's just go play. Yeah. It's a huge difference. I think Travis Green's a pretty good hockey coach, and I've never played for him. I couldn't tell you.
Sure.
But you just feel like that whole weight of the world has lifted because they've won a couple of games. I can't imagine the difference in that room and what it's like to come to the rink compared to what it was under the last few days with Travis Green.
Yeah, he's a player's coach, Wally, and that's what he does. He's not, well, I shouldn't say he's not an X's and O coach. All coaches in the NHL are X's and O's coaches, but he particularly is known for his communicating abilities behind the bench, excuse me, and then just knows how to talk to players, and players, from what I understand, love playing for him. And this has been the case now for years. The only knock on Boudreau has been his postseason successes, right? Or lack of, with some of the good teams that he's had. So to me, I don't look at that as a negative. That's going to happen where you have great teams that don't really always succeed in the playoffs. A lot of things happen, but certainly a really good regular season guy right now. And this is exactly what this team needed in Vancouver. So good for them. I'm happy for them.
Okay, but have you played for a coach that's not an X's and O guy? I want to say Brian Murray, I was always told, was never an X's and O's kind of guy. He just let someone else run practice.
I'm reluctant to throw a coach under the bus, because am I implying that the guy doesn't know what he's doing by saying he's not an X's and O's guy?
It's just like some people, you know what? Some people can read music, but can't really play the instrument. Other players, other people can pick up and just play and understand.
So when I think of an X's and O's coach, I'll think of a guy like that I've played for. I'll think of Ken Hitchcock, for example, Guy Boucher. They're very detail oriented, very detail oriented, lots of video. And they're really just kind of driving those points home to you on a daily basis. Whereas, I had a guy like Scott O'Neill for a little bit in Columbus, came in. He was really good kind of players coach, ex-player type guy, knew how to communicate with the players. Who else I'm trying to think of another. Oh, Paul Mclean almost to a degree as well. I'd say Mac was kind of like that too. I mean, obviously things didn't end up very good at the end there before he was let go because we were struggling. But when we were playing well under Paul McLean, he was a player's guy. He knew how to talk to you. He never really seemed to panic, right? He was good at absorbing a lot of attention and kind of playing with the media a little bit. We saw that in the playoffs against Montreal. So that would be another good example of a guy that maybe isn't so much X's and O's, but a player's guy.
Dave Cameron, which side is he on? Because he's coming up in our show.
That's a tough one. Because Cameron's very intelligent. He's a very good communicator, but he's got more of that teacher in him.
He's a trained teacher.
Well, there you go. So he's not, that reinforces my point. He's not like your buddy, like going to shoot the shit with you. Mind you, he would do that occasionally on a lighthearted practice day, but he is very much a serious guy, very, very smart and very well respected by the players.
Yeah. Okay. That makes complete. Yeah. Cause he went to school, UPEI. He was an educator, so that makes complete sense.
There you go. Checks out.
Finally, as we talk about in every show, I feel like, and I believe we now owe him royalties. We're going to talk about Matt Murray. We can't get away from this story. And I thought Matt, it was unfair for him. I understand the National Hockey League is not about fair; it's about winning. So I prefaced it by saying that, but I thought it was unfair to call him up and put him in that game and expect to have success right away. Now, does he need to steal a game? Absolutely. I no question, but so he allows 6 goals, 40 shots. His save percentage was .883 on the season right now with a .367 goals against average. He's 0-6. I know he had 2 more practices than Philip Gustafson. I still think you give Philip Gustafson that game, and the next game they were supposed to play was like 2 nights later back in Ottawa before they canceled it. Was it Minnesota? That he should have got that game, or whoever was coming. But I just felt like that's a tough building to go in. You've got them. The Leafs are playing fairly well. They're going to be energized from not having played. I didn't see very good things for Matt Murray going to happen in that game.
Right. Well, and you can only protect him so much, Wally, right? Like you can't.
I get it.
You know, they were, and I know you know that. I know I'm stating the obvious, but I think before the break, even before or when he was sent down and then brought up, they were trying to time everything perfect, right? Okay, we're going to protect him a little bit more. We're going to make sure he gets his reps in, et cetera, et cetera. But you got to remember, and I think most people need to remember, like he's a Stanley Cup champion. He's won. Like he's either going to do it now or not at all. Like there's no more grooming involved here. He's an established NHL goaltender. So to suggest that, well, maybe they should have protected him more. Maybe don't play him in the Toronto game, I think is all horseshit. I think at that point you have to expect to be able to play him. He needs to do his job. And one of my best friends is Matt Murray's agent. I'm going away with him in a month. I've got every reason to protect Matt Murray right now and be very, careful here with these topics, but I got to be truthful. And I don't think he hasn't held it up. And I think he knows that too. It's at a point now where you can only blame the team in front of him so much. Now, I will say this, the Toronto game, I thought the team played very poorly in front of them, more so than even in the past. There was no help. I thought that they were out of sync completely in the D zone. And it created a lot of activity around net front for him. And some of them were not, necessarily his fault. So I'm just sick of being an apologist. I think I'm at a point now with this group where Christmas break is behind us. You've been here for a year and a half. I know there's been a lot of disruptions, but it's time to play. It's time to go. And this team is desperate for some consistency between the pipes.
So a couple of things. One is you can tell he doesn't have any confidence. I thought just there's that.
I know.
The 2-on-1 with Thomas Chabot and I forget who scores. Is it Nylander or Justin Hall or whatever? The pass comes across. You can tell he's going to pass the whole way. And Murray just kind of lunges towards it. You can just see that he's just guessing. He's just hoping the puck kind of hits him, or at least it seems that way. And so I just feel like if you're going in there without any confidence, it's going to be tough to win a National Hockey League game. These are the best players in the world. So there's one note. The other one was, I get that he's supposed to be better, but if you don't feel that way in net, you're exposed. You don't have anybody. You can have a bad shift as a third pairing D or a first line forward. That doesn't matter. Tim Stützle got moved off the top line because the matchup with Austin Matthews wasn't very good. You can't, you're exposed as a goalie. And that's a bit of I find that like, whether it's fair or not, that's what you signed up for. And you get paid $6 million because of it. But you can tell the players are also tentative playing with him in net though. And
there's no confidence. Yeah. And that's going to be the issue moving forward. I know we don't need to keep beating on this, but other than what you just said, I really like the ending there where the group, it resonates with the group, right? I mean, if you're not playing very well, you get a shaky group in front of you that's not very confident in your ability to help them win the game. And that's very normal. It's a normal psychological thing with hockey players because you've got a goalie right there behind you with a ton of responsibility on his shoulders. He's got to be your best player in order for you to win most nights. And it's just not happening right now. So now you can see it. You can see, like, look at the way the group's playing. Does Matt Murray even have a win yet with this group?
No,
does he have a win yet this year?
Last year. No, he's 0-6 this year in 7
That's
starts.
what I mean, this season, right? And he's barely played. So, that's another thing. It's like he's got no reps. There's no consistency right now in the scheduling. So yes, these are all excuses. To a degree, they're pretty valid. But at the end of the day, I just want to see him break this goose egg. Just get out there, get your first win, and hopefully build off of that. Otherwise, I mean, I'm not a goalie expert, Wally. I don't know what the right answer is.
Well, I mean, let's just flip this and go to Edmonton right now and Mikko Koskinen. It feels like it's almost the same thing. While he's the backup, he's making $4.5 million a year to be the backup. It was a terrible deal when it got signed, no question.
Right.
So then Dave Tippett calls him out. So we haven't heard DJ.
Saw that.
I don't think DJ's really called out Matt Murray as much.
Did he not? Did he not before Murray went down? I thought he said a couple things.
That's right. They needed some saves. They needed some wins. I think he's right. And so, so they send him down. Fair enough. But Mikko Koskinen, after Dave Tippett calls him out and says, we need a better game, which is fair. I think there needs to be more of this, but Koskinen replies.
So we have,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say before you continue, Dave Tippett did try clearing those comments up afterwards, right? Like he mentioned that it was taken out of context. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. It isn't because he's actually honest in what his assessment is and that he needed to make stops. Like they're in a free fall. Sure. They're like Ottawa. They need to get goaltending. They need someone to steal a game. So Koskinen replies, it's not nice being thrown under the bus. I have to be better. At the same time, we've scored 7 goals in my 6 losses. I can't score goals.
Exactly.
So if you hear that as a player, as a guy that's somewhat paid to score goals, I don't mean that facetiously. You know what I mean? Are you guys taking that to heart? Like, are you now going, well, thanks for throwing us under the bus?
No. You know what? If anything, at that point, especially if I'm a veteran on the team, on a good team that has very high expectations, like the Edmonton Oilers have, I'd be more concerned about just the dynamic. All of a sudden, I would want everybody to try to cool it down, clear things up the way they're. I think Tippett kind of did that a little bit by retracting his comments to a degree, because you don't want any animosity in that group, right? It's a huge distraction. It affects the dynamic of the team. Now, those things are pretty normal when you're on a bottom feeder, but when you're playing for the Edmonton Oilers and you have the 1 and 2 top scorers in the NHL on said team, you can't afford this nonsense. So, for me, when I look at this situation, all I'm thinking is hopefully Connor McDavid can step in, have a group meeting, clear the air with the whole group, make sure that everyone's on the same page, and then just move forward, because they do not need these distractions right now.
Well, they're 37 games in. They lost again last night in 34 games in. They lost last night again in Toronto. They only scored 2 goals. They are in jeopardy of missing. I know there's lots of track left, but
they're not getting any depth scoring, Wally. That's what's happening.
Are they going to make the playoffs, Matt? Do they go from being Canada's hopeful to win a Stanley Cup to not making the playoffs?
They start 9-0-1 or whatever it was. Yep. And I'm thinking, okay, this group's for real. Like, this is a sick team. And they're finally there, right? And now I'm like, and I know I can almost feel the tension that's happening there, because I know what that's like, where you go on a heater for a little while and then you hit a rut and it feels like you can't get out of it. And now all of a sudden some injuries happen. All of a sudden, Mike Smith gets hurt, and he's like, he's 39 years old, but he's your goalie. And when he's healthy, he's been very good over the last 2 seasons. Right. Yep. So now you look at this and you're thinking, oh boy, how do we get out of this? And if you don't have something consistent between the pipes behind you, I mean, I don't know what the group is thinking, but it can't be fun. So like I said, I think this is just exposing this team even more so. Like, we were always talking about how they're a 1-2 punch with, McDavid and Draisaitl. And after that, there's a huge drop off, and we're starting to see that get exposed again. I know Hyman came in. He was a really pleasant surprise initially, but I think I love the team. Like, you look at the group on paper and they look good. In theory, they should be a great team.
I don't like it.
This is just the way the league works, right? Now look at Pittsburgh. They're on a 9-game winning streak. I never would have thought that would have been the case with them. So the NHL and the parity that's there, it makes it such an unpredictable league, and the margin for error is so small, right? Like one little nick in your lineup, and you can be on a downward spiral for 3 weeks. So that's a team to look out for.
So you brought up Pittsburgh. At the beginning of the year until November the 16th, it was like 15 games into the year. They went 5-6-4, and they were 25th overall in the league. Since then, they are 14-2-1, an 853 rip through the league. That is obviously best in the league at the time. And now they've moved up to where they're in the first wild card spot. But if ironically, it shows you how quickly you can dig a hole. They're still 4th 100%. In their division. Like, so it's so tough once you get off to a bad start to start digging your way out of that. Is Pittsburgh legit, or is it smoke in mirrors? What the problem is with Pittsburgh? They never have these great stars, but they have guys who can always play, like Brian Rust and Jake Gensel, who are never household names, but they had
a bunch of injuries.
Yes.
They had you're right, Wally. And they had a bunch of injuries for a while, which is why they were hurting, right? And
Crosby, Malkin,
and then
out.
So Malkin is still out. He's coming back though. Brian Rust was out. He just came back. Look at Brian Rust. He had 2 goals? What was it? 2 goals, I think, and an assist last night. So, these are just players that have seemed to really create really good identities for themselves on this team. And all this comes from Sid and Malkin, but mainly Sid, right? Like he's the kind of guy that changes the culture in a team. You hear about his skating habits in the summertime when he's out there out east with McKinnon and company, how they practice, how they approach the game on a day-to-day basis. When that player, a Hall of Famer, is your captain, it's contagious and it trickles down throughout the whole lineup. And so they've created this really, really cool dynamic where you've had these players. You mentioned Gensel, another guy, where I don't know if they see that same success that they've been getting if they ended up growing up on another hockey team, but because they've been under Sid's tutelage, if you will, they've been excellent. So it's a really cool thing to watch.
Like, I know we're not allowed to bring up Chris Kunitz's name, but he got Chris Kunitz on the Olympic team, for crying out loud. Look, Pascal Dupuis and Patrick Hornquist became household names, or because they're playing on his line. He just makes everybody better. And he's never 100%. Had a great all-star on his line, except for when they put Malkin and him together, right? Like,
when they throw him up there. Yeah.
But he just makes everybody better. It's amazing to me.
Well, that's why when people throw out those infamous questions, like, would you rather build a team around Ovechkin or Sidney Crosby? You ask any player, any NHL player, they'll always tell you the same thing. It's Sidney Crosby. I mean, and sure. I don't like comparing the two because they're both unbelievable ambassadors of the game, but that's Sidney Crosby and what he brings to the table. It's not just his production, it's his leadership and it's his ability to make everybody around him that much better.
I mean, look at Drake Batherson. Drake, I mean, we make a big deal about him skating with those guys in the summer, but when Drake Batherson's going, man, when I show up to play 3-on-3 and Sidney Crosby's going, are you ready to play today? You know, you are in it, right? You've got to be ready to play.
And I'm envious, you know, like I look back now, and if there's some things I could change, like that's one of them, like the intensity in the summer skates. I mean, I always approached it that way. I was always very competitive in those skates, but you got to understand as a player, there's always other guys that you think you're working harder than that are working that much harder than you are. And that's the difference between the elite players and the guys that are, you know, bubble or maybe just trying to get established at the NHL level. It's the commitment that these players have. It's contagious. Like I'm hearing these stories right now and I just want to go do a workout or something. Like it motivates me, you know what I mean? And that's the effect that those players have on everybody else. It's those days where you go to the rink, you're exhausted, you played the night before, you're kind of in a shitty mood, right? But then you got a guy like Crosby or another player that goes, okay, let's go. Let's get out there for a little skate. We're going to go really hard for 20 minutes. Then we're going to get off. Those are the guys that kind of drag you along. Brady Tkachuk has shades of that too.
Yeah. What if Adam Foote said, like, we got to be ready to play today? Are you gearing up to play, right?
Oh yeah. Footer was like that. I've told a million Adam Foote stories, and I didn't get to play with him that much. I was mostly around him in training camp and when I was called up occasionally. And another great example of a real leader, you know, like wasn't shy to speak up, wasn't shy to tell the coach when he thought the coach was making a mistake with something. Just those are the guys that when you're finished your career, you remember those players specifically because they've had a real significant impact on your play.
Fair enough. Good stuff today. Don't go anywhere. We're coming up after the break. Dave Cameron, your former head coach, stops by for the second time. Of course, he just coached Canada's World Junior team in Edmonton. We'll talk to him about that. We'll ask his thoughts on Ridley Gregg. He's Ottawa's draft pick. And, of course, Tyler Boucher, who's now joining the Ottawa 67s. We'll get his thought on that as well. And he's got some great stuff about Mason McTavish, the Carp fellow from, well, we'll call him from Ottawa in case you're outside of the Ottawa area. And, of course, Noodles, 2.5. We give him a gift. He tells us another story. It's like an exchange. So all that brought to you by a cool, refreshing taste of whitewater beer. Go pour a Legion Lager or a Farmer's Daughter or any of those and enjoy the show. Remember, we take care of our listeners and viewers. Go to shopwhitewater.ca. Use the Wally Methot coupon code 15% off. Whitewater, brewed by friends for friends. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back to the show. And time now to bring in one of my all-time favorite head coaches, Dave Cameron. But before we get to Cameron, who also Matthew played for, we got some notes to tell you about. Pearls of Wisdom, brought to you by sportsinteraction.com, sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot. Here we go. 36. That's the number of seasons of coaching experience for Dave Cameron. 11 different teams coached in 7 leagues in 3 different countries. 5 medals won as a Team Canada coach. That's 3 gold and 2 silver. It should have been a 4th gold, but we'll get to that in a minute. And 12, he's one of 12 players from PEI to have played at least 100 games in the National Hockey League. Welcome to the show, the head coach of the Ottawa 67s, Dave Cameron. Good to see you, sir.
That made me sound old.
No, you're still young.
Instead of old, let's use experience.
You're full of experience. That's why we want to talk to you.
Yes, I am.
Last time we had you on, Meth was unavailable. So now you guys get to have a chat about what it was like to try and coach Mark Methot, but we can get to that in a minute.
Oh boy. Let's avoid that.
That was easy.
Oh, all right. So you just let someone else handle this, is what you're trying to tell me.
Well, no, as a coach's, what makes it easy on a coach or a coach's dream when you coach guys is when you put them on the ice, you know what you're getting. And that's what Meth was. You put them on the ice, you knew exactly what you're getting. So for the most part, the game is consistent. And when you have consistency in your game, that breeds success.
What did you get from Mark Methot then?
Old-time hockey, I call it. Some people, but physicality, simplicity, predictability. And so, a couple of highlights, he was obviously a real good compliment to Carl, because Carl was the run and gun dynamic type of player. And for those guys to succeed, they always need somebody to stay at home and cover it up and get them the puck. And today's athlete a lot of times think the flash and dash is the way to go because all they do is watch highlights, right? Well, there's only very few flash and dash guys that make their career strictly on flash and dash. The other guys have to have some semblance of old-time hockey. And simple is good. Less is more a lot of times. Every team that's successful and goes deep into the playoffs or goes to playoffs year after year, for the most part, they have a lot of those simple players.
So Meth would like me to get off this topic as soon as I can, but I got one more question about him, and that is he's known to be a little ornery to be around. I'm curious of what he was like for you to be around.
Well, it's funny. Describe ornery.
Cranky.
Yeah, exactly. Cranky. Okay, fair enough.
Cranky is what the non-hockey people use to describe their cohorts of work. Competitive is what coaches use to describe cranky hockey players.
Jammer's being really good right now to me, and I appreciate that. Dude. Thank you very much, Coach. Yeah,
you're welcome.
Okay.
You earned it.
I'm trying to find I just want that nugget. Give me something, Ken,
Wally?
Anything. Yeah.
Wally, let's move forward.
That's all part of the good thing about coaching method is that there were no nuggets.
There you go.
Fine, we'll move on. I want to talk about World Juniors, and obviously the disappointment. Like, I know it would probably take you 3 days to try and explain how this all went down in a short period of time, but can you sum up what it was like from being in quarantine to try and put a team on the ice to worrying about COVID? Like, what was this like as a head coach, or did you just go, I'm just going to coach whoever I got and let everybody else deal with that stuff?
Yeah, it was, you knew when you work with Hockey Canada, the best thing about that is that you just coach. They handle everything else. Like, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. But you knew that because this has been going on for 2+ years, you knew how volatile the situation can be and how quick it can change. And so that's in the back of your mind, but you just go about your business day to day. And then you just hope that when you get as far as the actual tournament of games actually started, you were saying, okay, so far, so good. But then your antennas really went up when the first game was canceled. We were really vulnerable from a point of view that one case per team meant that the team wasn't able to play and perform. And when you're trying to get X amount of games in a once teams start missing games, there's just no time or schedule to reschedule them. And it became to the point where the health and safety of everybody was the first concern. And so it was the right thing to do, for health and welfare of the players and for the integrity of the tournament.
I'm going to skip ahead. Do you think you're going to get a tournament in at some point? Like, do you feel that you're going to have a chance here to try and finish this tournament out?
Well, I believe that everything is going to be done possible to make it happen. But as you know, with what we're dealing with and the number of X factors and all that, there's no guarantees. But I honestly believe there's going to be a full effort to complete this tournament.
So obviously disappointed. I got to assume that you get a chance to be the head coach again of this national junior team, and what an honor it is. What was it like, I guess, for you to take to the ice for that first game, or did it just feel like coaching another game?
No, it was quite a ride, because if you want to go back to the start, we're getting into mid to the third week in July, and I was all ready to go back to Austria, to Vienna, and was excited, was settled in there. Would have been my 4th year back. And within the course of 3 or 4 days, I went from not going back to Vienna to head coach of the Ottawa 67s to the head coach of Canada's World Junior team this year. And, no place to live, knew nothing about either team. I had to get to Ottawa, I had to get through a training camp, had to make sure that the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted as a new coach coming in. here at Ottawa, and at the same time with a hand and an eye looking out to what was going on with the World Juniors, meeting every week with Zoom calls and trying to keep up to speed with how that was going. And so it was quite a whirlwind through training camp until such time that I went to Calgary and the team was in the final selection process. And then when it was all said and done, it was just a real sigh of relief to finally, okay, this is the team. I knew Ottawa was in good hands when I left with Norm and Martin, and so it just was all excited, was relaxed, and round to go when that final selection was made. And then you're going, you're full board. We're sitting in the coach's room. We're getting ready for a game against Germany. And, the dreaded phone call come just before noon, and Scotty Salmon was on the call so we could hear what was being said. And then it just boom. Even though you weren't totally shocked by it, it's just like you're going 100 miles an hour and then bang, you hit the wall, you stop. And then on the flight the next morning, I was on the bus at 3:30 the next morning to catch a 6 o'clock flight. I get in Ottawa at 6 o'clock. I was on the bus the next day, went to North Bay. And so now reality set in. The last couple of days it's really hit home, and kind of really drains your energy out of you, and just kind of the reality sets in, and the disappointment is magnified. But being experienced and that everything in the past passes, and so energized this week, and looking to get the 67 team here rolling again.
Yeah, and Cameron, just one quick note back on the World Junior situation. So when the announcement was made, the first thing I could think of was like all these players now that are not going to get another opportunity to head back there, particularly guys that were playing for Germany and Austria, some of these other players. I mean, I guess at that point, what do you tell the players when you hear that news? What's the message that's sent across to these young men?
Well, we had so when we got the message at 12 o'clock, at the rink, the players had gone back to the hotel, and they were in the process of getting the pregame meal because the 5 o'clock game, and some of them were sleeping. So we wanted to make sure that they heard it from us. And so we put things in place. We called a 1 o'clock meeting. So I'm sure at that point, as you know, everything gets leaked. I'm sure the players knew what was up.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to tell the players until it became official. Hockey Canada wanted to protect their integrity in terms of delivering the message. But so we got them all in the room, and we just talked, and I think it was at that point where you really realized the importance of this tournament to them. I mean, I think you always knew it now, but to see the reaction and to see the tears and to see the total bewilderment in their face, and really, Meth, at that point, there's nothing you can say other than that you share their disappointment, and you realize that the group in that room is the elite of the elite. And the bulk of them are going to have long pro careers. And so you just tell them that, it's that's what life is. It kicks you in the ass every once in a while, and that's what it is. But, you made the team. We were up and rolling. Nothing you can do about it. And you will feel a certain bit of accomplishment, even though we didn't finish the tournament, when you realize that you made the team, and it was a best on best tournament, and we were holding our own.
No, fair point. I'm with you on that. That's got to be very difficult. I guess to try to lighten it up, were there any other players in that group in that short time that you spent with the guys? Were there any standouts to you? I know you don't want to single out any players, I'm sure, but were there any guys in particular that really kind of impressed you and surprised you?
Yeah, it's the good thing about it too is that other than their hockey skills, because watching and scouting them, you get a pretty good idea, and for them even to be on the invitee roster, that their skill set is real good. But then when you get in, and the good thing about coaching hockey and your team is that you really get to know them because you're with them every day, right? That's the thing about hockey. You're with them every day. So was with this group for 3+ weeks every day, and so you get to see some of the characters and some of the traits. And I mean, you got Owen Power, the first overall pick, who won a world championship in the spring in Latvia.
Yep.
And I was really intrigued and wanted to meet him just simply because here was a guy that, put the NHL on hold. And there's not many guys put the NHL on hold, first overall pick, your instant millionaire and stuff like that. But he wanted to do it because he knew it was best for his career. He wanted to go back to Michigan with a chance to win a championship, and he wanted to come to the World Juniors and have a chance to represent Canada there. And so it's just a calm influence, elite player, a really high panic threshold, and he just gets the puck. He doesn't panic. And ironically, he told me a lot of his poise in hockey came from because he was a real elite box lacrosse player.
Oh, no way.
So it taught him how to evade checks and roll off checks and things like that. So at him and they had Cole Perfetti, who was in the American Hockey League. He played some games in Winnipeg, but he was on my list to phone to let him know that he made the team even before we went to Calgary. And it just was a reminder. He was that excited to get to play in the World Juniors again. Again, he won the World Championship in the spring with Team Canada. But just drove home how much that this tournament means to these guys and how passionate these guys were. And Caden Goulier, captain, he's like Jonathan Tays. He's just captain serious, but just loves the game inside out. But I would say of all those guys, those are real pros. But the guy I liked best from old school and character was Mason Mccabe. And this guy is just all hockey. He's just a hockey player. Everything he does, when you look at him, whether it's in the dressing room, whether it's in the training room, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's in the ice, whether it's in a meeting, this guy is just hockey player written all over him. And he was just all in. And great personality, honest as the day is long. I don't think that kid could lie to you. Because you ask him a question, he just tells you right out. So one of the things, just to give you an idea, one of the things that we were talking about was puck possession and managing the puck. And so in order to give them an idea what I was talking about, I used the lyrics to the Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler. You got to know when to hold and when to fold. So after I did my little speech on that, I said to Mason, I said, you know who Kenny Rogers is without missing a beat? He says, no. So he's as honest as the day is long.
Yeah, never mind trying to appease the coach in his story. He just flat out told you no.
Right away.
You might want to update your music list. Yeah, just at least to the 2000s.
Well, I tell him I walk in the room and I don't know if it's rap or what the heck is going on, but the lyrics and that just if my mother heard it, she'd just be mortified. But I always tell them, I said, you guys know there's a fine line between music and noise. So
I agree.
So I go throw in my country tunes, and every once in a while you get a guy that runs the country tune, so it's good.
Yeah, good.
Matt likes a lot of noise. Was Connor Bedard a serious question mark for this team? Now that you look, can you just honestly tell me that he was just going to make the team already? He scored 4 goals in the last game.
No, but you have to remember it's not an all-star team, and so when you have a player of exceptional status like that, you have to be careful too that you don't put him in the wrong situation.
Sure.
I mean, you look back over the history of all those exceptional players that come in young. They didn't dominate.
Agreed.
They just kind of come in and got their feet wet, and because there's a huge difference between a 16 and 19-year-old in terms of physicality and that. So you know his skill set, but at the same time, you can't cut another good player just because there's an exceptional kid in the mix. So he earned it. Make no bones about that. He earned it, and he came in, and we moved him around the lineup. And he was very good. The thing I liked best about him was how coachable he was. You would tell him something was so. I give him a little rub after the U Sport games there where he scored, and they were asking about him. And I said the only complaint I had was his shift length. And I told him that on the bench too, right? That rest of the tournament, not an issue.
Good.
Right. And so the other thing about exceptional players is that obviously they're exceptional from the offensive side of the game, which you can't teach. So I just tell them, I said, hey, you don't need me in the ozone, but I want your play away from the puck to mature a little bit. I said, because as exceptional as you are with the puck, you have to have a certain amount of defensive responsibility if you're going to move up the ladder and play big minutes. And you're never going to be your best defensive player. Nobody would ever put those restrictions on them. But at the same time, those elite guys, they want to be elite players, not just elite offensive players. And so very coachable. Listened, took the advice and worked hard at it. So full marks for him coming in and being one of those 16-year-olds that didn't just make the team, contributed pretty impressively offensively.
Good.
He was fun to watch. There is an Ottawa Senator pick on that team, Ridley Gregg, who's been known to play with an edge. So what was like your first conversation with Ridley Gregg?
Well, my first conversation with all of them was to play to who you are, play to who you are. But then the coaches in the Western League says, well, you just have to be careful because he can cross the line, and a small tournament you can't cross the line because there's only X amount of really important games in that, and so. He was part of a group that we wanted to be play to the identity that we're going to be hard to play against, tenacious on the forecheck, some physicality, at the same time make the right play. And certainly I can see why Ottawa's excited about him.
So how would you assess his game?
I see him as a responsible 200-foot player who can still contribute offensively. He's not just a shutdown guy by any means. He's a 200-foot player that I think fits right into that group that they have, that up and coming group that seem to be able to play on both sides of the puck.
Now, you coached the 2011 World Junior team in Buffalo, and now this team. What is it about the Russians that you drive them so crazy that they act out after the tournament? Well,
I think that's just in my DNA. I think since I'm guessing that they celebrated 2011, and then I was part of that World Championship team in 2016 that won gold in Moscow, and Putin had to present us with the gold medal, so they're probably a little vengeful, this edition of the team. So I think it kind of went both ways.
Man, yeah, they got a little excited. You now just recently, as of Wednesday, Tyler Boucher arrived in Ottawa. He's going to join your team. Obviously, he's the first-round pick of the Ottawa Senators, 10th overall. What do you know about Tyler? And I guess, are you excited to see him eventually in the lineup here?
Yes. Again, a player I haven't seen in person in terms of actually watching him live, but certainly did some video scouting on and stuff like that. And I think is exactly what our team needs. We're a relatively young team, so the young guys are not overly big. I mean, they're like most 16 and 17-year-olds are still growing, stuff like that. So we need a little bit of meat and potatoes in our lineup. And that's exactly what we're getting here in Tyler. And so see him coming in here. I think he's in Ottawa now. I haven't seen him yet. And but he's gonna be a big part of our team moving forward here, and understanding that his game's still developing.
Yeah.
But from what I gather, he's a bit like Meth in that he knows what he is. So you don't have to convince him that he has to play a certain style. You just have to work with him and teach him and get him better playing that style and working on some of the other things that's going to help him be a pro for a long time.
Cameron, this is going to be a bit of a wild question because I've been removed from the OHL for years. But when I played, and you'll be able to answer this, there were quite a few tough guys still in the O. You know, there was always one or two guys that you had to keep your head up for. With the way Boucher plays, we know that he likes to run around a little bit. He's very physical, kind of a shades of Tom Wilson to a degree, which again, that might be bold in itself. Is he going to have to deal with that a little bit now? And I know I'm putting you on the spot as a coach in the O to suggest that he might have to fight. I'm not saying that, but what I'm asking is, do you expect that he will have to kind of defend himself now if he's going to bring that game here to junior hockey?
Yeah, you know, I think all the leagues, starting with the NHL and the OHL and American League, they've done a real good job of getting the useless fighting out of the game. You know, the stage fighting, if you want to call it. But fighting's still part of the game, and you do have to answer the bell once in a while for big hits and stuff like that. And you can debate whether that's right or wrong or whatever, but that's the reality of it. Yeah. So the big thing the players have to adjust in the physicality of it is, and it's really hard because there's that fine line, as you know. You see it in the NHL too, where a player's committed to a hit, and all of a sudden the guy stops up and turns his back. And people say, well, you can't hit him there. Well, you can't stop there. You know, the reality of it is you've committed, he's changed his angle. There's no good guy, no bad guy there, but it's you're going to get suspended for that. Mm-hmm. So the guys that do that, you know, just have to make sure that any hit on the numbers isn't a hit where the guy has his back turned to you for an extended period of time, and you just regard as those rules and that you go through or come across blindsiding guys like that. So I think Tyler is going to be physical, and yes, I do suspect that at some point he may have to answer the bell.
Yeah, and I only ask that because he's coming from the NCAA where there's essentially no fighting, right? And all of a sudden, obviously, he's playing against smaller players, not quite as mature, yet you still have that element now to worry about. That's why I was curious just to hear what your thoughts were.
Yeah, but you know what, too, is I learned over the years, too, like you think that the NCAA and that no fighting comes out of there, but I think George Parros played Princeton.
Yeah, he did.
There's another guy played, Jim Nill, played, I think, some stuff like that, and those guys can handle themselves. And then what was the Scott guy that won the MVP?
John Scott.
John Scott, didn't he play NCAA?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes those guys are sleepers.
Good point.
When you have a high-end player like that in your lineup, do you have to deal with general managers from the National Hockey League? Do you have to deal with Pierre Dorian calling you saying, I want him to play this way? Or are they completely hands-off when it comes to letting you just coach your junior team the way you want to? I'm just always curious. I don't think I've ever asked a junior coach.
Well, it's my experience is that most NHL teams and very rarely is it the GM. Generally, it's whoever's in player development is usually your contact when you have a player, draft the player and stuff like that. But generally, both sides see the same player, right? I mean, you don't have to watch a guy on ice much to know his passing, skating, and shooting and what he does. And so most guys. Most NHL organizations and juniors see the same kid and have the same goals in mind. And that's a good thing about junior is that it's usually the parent, sometimes the agent, that doesn't see the same kid that you see, right? Yeah. But no, generally NHL team player development, and my experience anyway has been we both seen the same player, and both envision him getting to the next level playing a certain style.
I got a couple of other questions for you. One is you're good friends of Gerard Gallant. The other day I saw him yelling at the official extensively. I'm just curious if he's ever yelled at you like this. Like I thought he was going to lose his mind. So I'm curious of did you text him and go, what happened to you?
No, I haven't talked to Gerard since I was coaching in Calgary and he came in with Vegas and we exchanged text messages and he says, let's just tie and one of us win it in overtime. I said, great. They scored 2 goals in the last minute and beat me in the regulation. So I sent him a note. I said, what happened to that agreement about getting overtime and at least somebody gets a point out of it? He just said something like, crap happens.
That's fair.
No, Gerard's really a quiet guy. So when Gerard's upset, genuinely, it's good reason.
He was a little wound.
Yeah.
Finally, one of the other questions, New Brunswick Senior Hockey League you played in, and I meant to ask you the last time on the show about playing in that league. And so what you want to take me back to you playing in St. John, and you played in Charlottetown and Fredericton, I think, right? Did you play for the Alpines?
Where's the Alpines?
Yeah, Fredericton.
Yeah, played. I went to Fredericton in 90 to do my master's degree. So I played a half a year there. Then I played with Charlotte. 1991, our team in Charlotte won the Allen Cup.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I had but that was back in the time when still the AUAA back there was really good. The college hockey in Atlantic Canada, UNB, Acadia, St. FX, St. Mary's, UPI. UPI had a real powerhouse back through then. And actually, we had a player playing on their team after playing UPI that went on playing in the NHL. A guy by the name of Jerry Fleming.
He was the doorman in Fredericton at a bar.
Jerry was huge, 6'4". Yeah, he played in Fredericton, the American Hockey League team.
Yep.
And then he played games with Montreal, coached in Florida. East Coast League.
Yeah.
Then was the assistant coach with the Edmonton Farm team in are they in Bakersfield?
Yeah,
the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
And now Flem is over. I crossed paths with Flem when I was in Austria. He's the assistant coach in Berlin in the DEL.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, because he was just a guy at a bar. Good for him.
Yeah. So yeah, his dad, if I'm correct in this, do you remember watching the Montreal Canadiens on Saturday night in the old Forum? And do you remember always right at the end of the bench there was a policeman?
Yes.
I don't know if you guys would remember that in uniform, like was on duty.
I remember the
story. I'm pretty sure that Flem's dad.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's Flem grew up in Montreal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you. I hope that you guys get back to playing a tournament. I don't know when it is. Hopefully it's in the summer, but I do hope to see you guys trying to get this gold medal and just at least trying to get back to playing hockey. So, and I hope your junior team gets back. Like, it's just such a mess right now, right, Dave? So
yeah,
I just hope you're safe and you guys get to play again soon. We look forward to it, my friend.
And I want to thank you for all the Wally and Methot parcel you gave me. Your sweatshirt, your hats.
Cameron, did he sent you a package?
Yeah, but he sent a bill with it.
Yeah, well,
yeah, of course. That doesn't surprise me. But Cameron probably would have had more use for like free beer or something instead of some of the T-shirts. But we'll work on that for you, okay?
Hello, Brent. Listen to your co-host.
It's out of Meth's paycheck, so if Meth wants to give up the free beer, he can.
No problem. For Cameron and all the compliments you gave me earlier, you can give him a bunch of cases. It's all good.
The Whitewater is on the way. Take care, Dave. I appreciate you stopping by. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, and good luck.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks. See you, Craig.
And speaking of Whitewater beer, like to try something different, how about mix and match? You can make up your own 6-packs if you want. You can use Legion Lager, the High Tide, Blood Moon, all that stuff. Farmer's Daughter, of course, is our favorite. And don't forget, use the Wally Methot coupon code. Get 15% off when you go to shopwhitewater.ca. Order across Ontario or get home delivery in Ottawa and the Valley. Whitewater beer, brewed by friends, for friends. And speaking of friends, Jamie McLennan coming up right after the break. And welcome back to the Wally Methot Show, and welcome back to Jamie McLennan, and Happy New Year, Noodles. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm excited to, see what 2022 brings. I don't know what the date. I know it's January 5th. When do you stop saying Happy New Year? Like, when is it? Is it 2 weeks in? Is it a month in? When is it?
When Doug Ford said everything is being shut down, I figured there's no point saying Happy New Year anymore.
All right, that's fair enough. I got that, but I mean, we've got to find a silver lining, and I think we found it because you guys sent me something, so I'm pretty fired up about
it. So here we go. So you came back on the show. It was on December 9th. You regaled us with stories as usual. One of them caught the attention of one of our viewers, and so they sent me a gift to send to you, and so I packaged it up and I sent it out to you. Now, those who don't remember, back on December 9th, one of the big stories that you told was about this puffin in St. John's. And so we'll quickly run the clip, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to tell you to open up this gift.
I got sent to the East Coast League for the weekend, and they wanted me. There was 5 goalies in the system, and they had 3 at the NHL level because Mark Fitzpatrick had an illness, a rare illness that when he would get sick, he would get sent to the minors so he could recover. And that would bump me to the East Coast League. So I would go down for the weekend. I would play. And what happened is Glenn Healy ended up hurting his finger. And I get called up from the East Coast League to the NHL. I stay there for the night. And they finally, because they got to fill a void, they send me to the AHL. And I get out to the Rock. It's Toronto's team. I think it's St. John's. St. John's. Yeah.
St. John's.
St. John's Maple Leafs. So I get out there, and we're playing on a Tuesday and Thursday. So I go and join the team. And Butch Goring's the coach. Billy Smith is the goalie coach. So I get out there, and I start the Tuesday game. So I go skating out, and I know Smitty's there, and I want to impress. And as I go to scrape my crease, there is like this bird of a mascot. His name was Buddy the Puffin. It's like this weird shaped like bird. And he's like doing this hex and like kind of like skating towards me. And I'm like, all right, I'm just trying to like focus for the game. So I'm scraping my crease, and he would come near the crease, and I would like push him out of the way. And it was just weird. He was being annoying. So that first period, I like stand on my head. I'm like feeling really good. After the first period, I go into the dressing room. I come out for the second period, and the bird is in the crease, like standing in my crease, like doing a hex. And I got to skate like the whole, the second period, you got to skate all the way down. So I skate down, I give him a push. He pushes me back, and I'm like, this is weird, but the crowd's kind of getting into it, and I'm scraping my crease. I didn't even think anything about it. So end up having really good period. Third period comes out. He's there again. I push him. He kind of pushes me back, and I stand in my head. I don't know the score. I think James Duthie ended up looking it up, but like in my head, I think we won like 3-1 or 5-2 or something. And I got like a star, and I thought I made like 35 saves, and I was like unbelievable that night. And I am so proud. I'm like, hey, I just put a show on in front of my goalie coach. And so I come off, I'm the last guy off because I was a star. And I go into the room, and the guy's like, hey, Noodles, and I go to, and in my stall is Billy Smith. And he's like, I need to talk to you in the hallway right now. And I was like, all right, and I'm thinking, he doesn't want to give me all the accolades in front of everyone. He takes me out in the hallway, and I'm standing there, and he's like, don't you ever let that fucking bird stand in your crease again. And I was like, what? Like, I'm like, I just got first star. And he's like, if that fucking bird's there on Thursday, he's like, you take him out. And I'm like, what? Like, and honest to God, I'm not lying. Like, it's a Tuesday night. I didn't sleep a wink that night. He's like tore a strip off of me. And we practiced the next day. And all I keep thinking about is like, what am I going to do with this bird? Like, and,
yeah.
And I'm hoping like, okay, maybe I'm not going to start Thursday because, maybe I'll start the other guy. So as he's skating around before practice, I'm looking out of the corner of my eye, and I'm watching Butch Goring, and I'm trying to avoid him because I'm waiting for him to skate up and go like, I'm going to start the other guy. He skates up to me, he goes, Noodles, you're playing tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I'm not even thinking about the game. I'm thinking about this stupid bird. So I swear to God, next game. So Thursday comes, game. I get out there for the first period. Like the bird is kind of like, hexing me. I'm like all locked in. They score like 4 goals in the first period. And I'm just brutal. Like I should get pulled. They should pull me. I swear to God, I think in my mind, Billy Smith told Butchie to keep me in to see how I had handled this bird. So after the first period, I come out and the bird is in my crease giving me the hex. And I was like, fuck this. So I take off 200 feet and I run the bird out of I literally hit him as hard as I could. And this bird goes flying into the corner and the crowd goes crazy. And I don't know if there's a 14-year-old girl in there. There's an 85-year-old man. Like, I have no idea who this bird is. And I bury this bird and the crowd is on me. I think we lost like 7-1 that night and they left me in and the crowd was giving it to me. And I was just rattled the whole night. I come after the game and Smitty's in my stall with a smile on his face. And I'm like, yeah, sorry. He takes me out in the hallway. And he's like, that's how you be a man in this league. And I'm like, oh my God, I just gave up a touchdown. I literally just gave up a touchdown. And he was like, no, you show them how you can be. And I was like, unbelievable. Like that. I'll never forget that. But like to this day, people from St. John's still send me notes going like, this Buddy the Puffin is like their mascot out there. Like it's, that's the guy.
Okay, Noodles, you can now open up your gift.
Okay. I was
concerned from our good friend, Matt Cross sent this. And so from The Rock.
All right, Matt. Oh, wow. All right. What do we got? It is a t-shirt.
Oh, I'm just trying to suck up to you, but
that was underwhelming.
Okay, wait, that's not it. I just needed to pack it in there.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to be wearing that, man. And here it is. Oh my Lord, here it is. I swear to God, I love it. I love it.
It's Buddy the Puffin.
This is unbelievable. But the best part about this is I don't know what's in there. It could have been. Remember when I told them the story? It could have been a 14-year-old girl. It could have been a 97-year-old man in the puffin suit. I'm happy. This is just a statue. It's going to go. I've got a little statue situation going on over here. That's a bobblehead. That's me. It's a really creepy 3D like thing of me. And this is from, we talked about this. This is from the Major League guy, Corbin Burnson. Is that his name?
Yeah, that's outstanding.
I'm going to put that right there, but he is going to go right here. Buddy the Puffin. That is amazing. And I'm going to bring it up. This is awesome. And it's funny. Every time I bring that story up, if I tell it, like I get notes from out there, people like, it's still going on. The Puffin's still there. The Puffin's acting up. And like, apparently, like once in a while, like maybe once a month, somebody will send me a note from out there going, Noodles, your buddy was at it again or whatever. So I really think it's awesome. You know what, that story, obviously I told it it's a pretty funny story, but I just think it's such a neat thing. It's legendary and it's going to stay right there.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
That's so good. So good. So thank you to Matt Cross for sending it to us.
And the t-shirt. I told you guys, I already got the pigeon t-shirt. Is that what it's called? The pigeon?
Yeah.
That one. Absolute pigeon.
I do have one more story before you go. I got to ask you about, and it's got to do with a bird, which is why I'm bringing it up. So there's something to do with Al Arbor and a bird. Do you want to share that story with us? Okay. And it's actually a great story. It's my first ever pro start. It's an exhibition. So I had a really good training camp and I kind of won like rookie of the training camp. So I'll never forget this. I got $75 extra meal money from the Islanders. It was like, I got an envelope with $75. I won top rookie in training camp. And as a prize, they're like, the goalie coach goes, you're playing tomorrow night against Boston in Albany, New York. And so I'm pretty excited. I've kind of got, it's my first kind of NHL start. And I'm looking at the roster before the game and it's like Ray Bork, Glenn Wesley, like Boston actually brought some players, right? So, and I'm just terrified. I don't know. Again, I don't know if I slept or anything. There was anxiety. And I get in the game and I swear, two things that stand out for me.
The first shot on goal, Boston won the draw cleanly back to Ray Bourque. And I don't know if you guys knew this, like Ray Bourque shot the puck from everywhere. Like that guy used to get 12 shots on goal a game. Like it just, they went into him. He takes a slap shot from inside his zone all the way down on me. And I remember thinking, like, here's my career. If I make this save, I might have a chance to play in this league. If I let it in, I might as well just skate right off. So I catch it, I put it down. I'm like, oh man, I'm an NHL goalie. You know, it's fine. Honest to God, I was out to lunch that period. Like they scored 3 goals in like the first 5 minutes. It was just all hell was breaking loose. Like it was tic-tac-toe, back door. Everything's happening so quickly. So Al Arbour calls a timeout. And I think he's just like, man, this kid is just getting his ass handed to him. I need to slow things down. So I skate over to the bench and Al's just kind of sitting there and he leans over and he goes, hey, kid, come here. And he goes, do you think, and I swear to God, he's looking at me and I know I might have tears in my eyes. I have no idea. But he's looking at me and he goes, let me ask you this. Do you think if I put the net down and put a bird in there, the bird could stay? And I was like, what? And he's like, if I put the net down and put a bird in there, would the bird be trapped in the netting? And right away, the ref blows the whistle. It's like, okay, let's go, you know. And I'm skating back and I'm looking at him and he's like, well, answer me. And I'm like, I have no idea what the hell this guy's talking about. And I go in the net and I end up, you know, making some saves and settling into the game. We end up coming back. We end up tying the game 5-5. And he comes to me after the game and he's like, so like nothing else. He comes up and he goes, you got my answer. You got my answer. Like what, could that bird escape the net? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. He goes, neither do I. But he goes, I needed to say something to get you off to get you back into the game. Like he could see that I was overthinking the game. And he was like, I needed to jar you somehow to get you off of overthinking the game. So he's like, I just threw it out there. It was unbelievable because I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And he's like yelling at me from the bench, you got my answer? You got my answer? And I'm like, I have no idea what to say or what. And it ended up that I kind of settled into the game. And you know, like I say, I wouldn't say I went on to an amazing career. I went on to a long career, but it was kind of a test of like, I think he knew, just a grizzled veteran coach is like, this kid is shell-shocked. He's rattled. I need to press a button or I'm going to lose him for that game. So it was kind of a neat thing, but it was like a random story that I'll never forget because it was so unique of a story.
That's awesome. And Noodles, just to add to that, my only memory, Ray Bourque was my favorite player growing up. My only memory of him when I watched him live, I think it was like one game against the Sens way back. It was when they were in trouble and scrambling in their own zone. Boston was hemmed in. He got the puck and huge windup from like bottom of their own circle, perfectly placed, consistently, 5 feet off the ice, all the way down, hits the goalie's blocker. Play just continues to get their change. Like I thought that was the coolest thing, like to have that confidence, you know?
That's the one thing that always stood out for me when I played against Ray Bourque is he hit the net. Like he always hit the net. And I remember playing in Boston one night in that little shoebox of an arena that was yellow ice and the fans were on top. It was just gritty, the old garden. And the defenseman on a 5-on-3 was Bourque and Al Iafrede. And they were just like that Iafrede, skull it or no skull it. That guy had 110 mile an hour slap shot. Unbelievable. And very, very intimidating. But like just watching Bourque throughout his career, like even seeing him, to me, that's what a man looked like on the ice. He was a big, strong, and grizzled and hit the net, and everything about him was unbelievable. So very intimidating. And I'm lucky I made the save on that one. I didn't stop anybody else. I remember Glenn Wesley score a red rotten goal that night, but it happens. Oh, well.
Nice. Very nice.
Noodles, we appreciate it. We're going to let you go, but we will keep you in the loop to have any more animal stories that you may have to share with us further on in your career. Yeah.
You know what? Next time you guys have me on, I'll tease this. You have to ask me about Jimmy Roberts stories. Do you guys remember the legendary coach, Jimmy Roberts?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Jimmy Roberts was this grizzled, like old, and he ended up being our defensive coach in St. Louis, but he was a head coach in the minors for years. And he never wore hockey gloves. He wore gloves with tape on the fingers, like just old gloves. And he wore a hat with a pom-pom. And he never used a stick as a coach. He would just skate around with his hands behind his back and like just be talking and whistling on the ice. I have a million Jimmy Roberts stories, and they are the best because he's honestly one of my favorite coaches of all time. I love him. He passed away, I wouldn't say somewhat recently, but I love that man. And honestly, there's so many amazing stories on him.
Awesome. Thanks, Noodles. We're going to wish you a Happy New Year one more time, and then we'll never say it again. So we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Happy New Year, guys. Thanks for having me.
And welcome back to the show. All right, Craig joins us now. And Craig, as always, good to see you. I know that you appreciate the gifts that we always send out to everybody. And of course, seeing Noodles with the Buddy the Puffin, maybe our favorite thing that we may have done on the show.
Yeah, what I love is that you spent your time mailing stuff to people. Like every guest on the show today got a package from Brett. So I think you missed the memo when we said mail it in. That wasn't what we meant.
I will tell you, the budget we have for shipping with Canada Post is huge. By the way,
massive. That's so funny. Anyways, I think it's great that you're out there sending all your packages off and mailing everything out. And so mail time with Brent, or we got to come up with something for that. But yeah, I thought that's pretty funny. But,
well, at the beginning of the show, we gave away bobbleheads. And so I went and mailed, and I was like, well, what's it going to cost? It's a free bobblehead. It was like $22. I was like,
yeah, it's not cheap.
It costs more.
It's expensive
to mail it. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so it's pretty expensive.
But yeah,
boys, great job. Great job today with both those guys. Dave, I mean, I love Dave. I love that he shouted me out at the very end there because he doesn't really like. We were talking about that at the end. He just thinks the whole call is the interview sometimes, right? So the call ended and he said bye to anyway. So he left it in. That was fun. But yeah, Meth, I wanted to ask you one more thing before we get out of here. There's been some chatter online here about the Olympic team. I'm seeing some tweets. Where are we at here? Are you going or not going?
Wait, can I interrupt for 1 sec? Hold on.
Absolutely.
I will say Monday is going to be partially your Olympic comeback show. Ooh. So don't give away too much just yet.
Okay.
I'll give you guys a teaser then. Yeah. I'll give you a teaser. I skated the other day with a bunch of kids at the ODR in Manotick, and felt really good. So
we'll see. Really good means what?
Defensively, because I hadn't really handled a puck in some time, but like my movement was surprisingly really good. Now, I did a really hard leg workout yesterday in the morning, and then I took my son out skating afterwards, and I could feel it was a little sore. Okay. So I don't have the same bounce back that I had in my 20s, but this is sort of like a group of expendables, right? That may be going over there to the Olympics, with all due respect to some of the good players. So we'll see.
You only got to play like 9 games. I don't even know if it's that many. Like, you don't have to play a lot here.
What's the name of that movie? The football movie with Keanu Reeves. He's a quarterback.
Oh, The Replacements.
The Replacements. Yes.
The Replacements. Yeah. So that's sort of the vibe I'm going for here.
I like it.
We're going to work on that on Monday. I will say, like, you posted that picture of you skating outdoors, and like the next 2 days on Instagram was shots of you with the massage gun on your quads.
Oh no, that massage gun is completely unrelated. We were at Costco, and as I'm walking in, they were on the left. When you walk into Costco and they have random crap on the left side, and I saw they had those Theraguns. Well, it wasn't a Theragun, it was a Sharper Image product, but it was like $99, and I'm like, wow, because usually they're a couple hundred. So I grabbed it, put it in the cart. That was it. Completely unrelated to the knee pain that I was feeling due to skating. Okay,
so you're an impulse shopper, is what you're saying.
No, I'm not. I'm actually very effing cheap. But when it comes to my body, so I don't cheap out on food or recovery stuff for my body. So those are things but when it comes to my wife and her pillow spending or anything around the home that's aesthetic, I'm totally against any of that.
My kids got one of those massage guns. They're fantastic.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're great. Anyway,
not for me. I don't need it, but for him, it's really good.
Craig, have you ever used one of those?
No,
have you
I
ever used with massage guns?
No, I haven't. I sent you a message the other day too, because I was battling some tendonitis.
I know.
So I was like, anyways, okay, all right.
Yeah, but you were saying the tendonitis. You were feeling that after your booster, right?
Yeah, but here I don't know why. I still haven't figured it out. It's fine now though. But I picked up
if you want to throw on the tinfoil, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think it might have just been like.
Kidding.
I think my arm.
I'm kidding.
No. I think my arm just might have been fatigued from it. You know how it almost feels like it's flexed the entire time after you get
you're kind of soft, so that's normal for you. You know?
It's like the most. It's so sad because I hear you guys like you're like out there battling and lifting weights and stuff. I was like, I'm pretty sure mine's from using a computer mouse too much. So
Craig's got a fucking ice pack on his arm from a shot.
Yeah, my arm can't take it. It's so weak from just like years of using a mouse and clicking and stuff like that. My arm's falling apart.
Carpal tunnel.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. So or maybe I need one of those guns too then. To blast out the.
Well, maybe Wally can send you one through
mail it to me. Yeah, exactly. Ship it on over.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
All right, boys. Monday is the Olympic announcement on the show, so don't go anywhere. We will see you then. Thanks for watching the Wally Methot Show. Have a great weekend, everybody.